Shalom, shalom, set apart men. And welcome back to another episode of the Set Apart Man, where we teach men, young and old, how to live set apart, how to be more obedient to the word of the Most High, and how to navigate this world according to righteousness. You know, man, in today's video, man, I want to talk about the wisdom that should be passed down from the OGs to the youngsters. You know, and I'm going to play a clip of a man that is dropping some wisdom, and I've said this same thing before. And then I'm going to talk about how, you know, the OG today, the OG in this late era of late 2020s is not really dropping wisdom. You know, but furthermore, the OG is trying to do the same stuff that the youngsters are doing. And why a lot of old men, you know, try to give advice to young men, but man, these young men ain't listening. These young dudes is not listening. So, man, just wanna break this down because in this clip, this man is gonna say some stuff that I've talked about before, and it truly can help young guys out, man, if they hearken and listen to the wisdom that you've got men like myself, and you got other men out there that are, you know, people might call us people might call us OGs, and I'm not talking about original gangsters. I'm talking about old men that's got some gray hair, you know. And once again, this is a video designed and tailored so men can quit doing the same silly stuff and know the importance of imparted wisdom on other brethren, younger brethren, so they can thrive. But before I get into it, man, I need y'all to do me a solid. Go ahead and smash that like button. Doesn't cost you anything. Subscribe to the Set Apart Man YouTube channel. Turn your notifications on. That way you don't miss a single video. And then lastly, man, you know, drop a comment down below answering this question. Why do you think it is that a lot of these older men, you know, are competing with these young dudes? Drop it down in the comments, man. I really want to hear what you got to say. But without further ado, man, roll that footage.
Okay, this is a message for young people. If you are 16 to 19, I need you to stop right now and listen to what I'm saying. I am a 38-year-old married father of 5. And when I was your age, I didn't give a shit about nothing. I was different, but at the same time caught up in the same materialistic chase the American dream. This is kind of the way that you have to do it. I was homeschooled. I didn't go to college. I went straight into the trades after high school and started making a bunch of money. In 2005, my first construction job banked me over 20 bucks an hour. 26.66 to be exact. And let me tell you what I did with that money. Absolutely nothing. I ate that money. I wore that money. I did absolutely nothing with it. And then that just started a roller coaster of how I spent my money. I got married young, had kids young, screwed up young, made a lot of money a lot of different times young. Put money in 401ks, took money out of 401ks, basically wasted it all. I am now almost 40, and I'm realizing that I should have done things completely different.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room, you can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
All praise to the Most High, Yah Shalom. Thank you for tuning in to another righteous Ruach Spirit-filled episode. Today I'm back at it in them trenches, handling that kingdom business with another episode of The Set Apart Man. You know, man, when we look at Proverbs chapter, I want to say it's 16, man, it says, the glory of younger men is their strength, and the glory of older men is their gray hair, is their wisdom, you know, symbolic for wisdom. Man, if you listen to that clip, that man was talking about, man, how much money he made in his youth. $26 plus in 2005, man. I was 16 at that age. I was 16 years old at that age in high school, you know, just had my first car, saved up enough money. And oftentimes as men, one of the biggest mistakes that we make is when you don't have guidance, when you don't have an OG pouring into your cup, dropping game, when you don't have a mentor, man, you think you're untouchable and you think you're the first to do some of this silly stuff that we do. You know, you think you the first one to ever trick off like you done tricked off, to have the flyest wardrobe. And here's the thing, man, it's just a vicious cycle that will continue in men that don't have guidance, don't have wisdom. You know, we've got 50-year-old men, you know, out here tricking off that should be taking a back seat, that should be taking a box office type approach and dropping game on the youngsters. But that's just the reality of it. We got the OGs, the old grays, man, the older men with grays that are competing for the same women in the club, doing the same stuff, getting caught up in the same foolishness. And I want older men to realize, man, if these young dudes, you know, are watching the way you move and they can't even respect the way you move because you're doing the same silly stuff they're doing, they're not going to receive wisdom from you. It's already hard enough with this generation of young men to drop game on them. You know, your average young man that you say, like, you got to think, man, OG can be in a spot for a second. You see him and then you don't. He can say, hey, something is about to go down here. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here, and I advise you to do it. And oftentimes the OG knows what he's talking about. And you like, man, I got to get with OG, man, because he got the wisdom. He knew something that I couldn't see. His level of depth was something that I can't see. Not today, man. Not today. We got men like Shannon Sharp getting caught up doing the same thing that these youngsters is doing. Man, I'm 36. I'm 36 years old, and I'm like, man, how are some of these older men fumbling the bag like they fumbling it? And the reality is, man, a lot of these older men didn't have the wisdom, man. They weren't woke to truth. They weren't walking in truth. And the reality is, man, they're just fulfilling the lust of their flesh. And what that does is it leaves a generational gap where you've got, when you think about it, you've got all these men that was raised by women that weren't poured into. These are the men now that got old grays from, you think about your grandma's generation. Grandma was strong and independent, raising these sons. Those are the men that now got older, that got gray hairs and things like that, that should be pouring into the generation, to the younger generation, but they don't have no wisdom. They don't have no guidance. And right now, this is why the Set Apart Man YouTube channel is so important, because, man, you know, man, I came into the knowledge of the truth at 28. At 28 years old, bro, I'm like, I'm good on these games. I'm good on ripping, running the streets. You know, man, I'll take the OGs, man. One thing about the OGs, the older men with gray hairs, you know, and I don't have a whole lot of gray hairs. I got a couple here and there, but the old men with gray hairs, man, they take a back seat. Man, you get them a nice glass of sweet tea, lemonade, man, they can just sit back and people watch. And that's the perspective when it comes to the glory of the old men with gray hairs, man. They're supposed to take a box office approach and show young men how to navigate this thing. But like I said, how is a youngster that's competing for the same women, living in fornication, how are they going to take wisdom from men like Shannon Sharp, getting caught up out here? You know, man, that man said, man, I'm almost 40, and I realized how much money I tricked off. And I've told men on this channel, you know, I got a video dropping, if it's not already dropped, man, you know, depending on when I drop this one, I'm talking about how much men trick off on women, trick off in life, flexing for women that don't even like you, flexing for women that really ain't even into you. You know, wearing all this designer and all of this stuff, spending all your money on on the appearance. And then later in life, man, you only look back, man, the old man will tell you, man, bruh, I spent a lot of money. If I would have invested that money back then and made wiser decisions, or focused and buckled down on investing my money, bro, I would have been a lot further along. You know, you've got, how are you going to ever hear that as a young dude in your early 20s if the 50-year-old man is in the strip club with you throwing his doggone Social Security check? Old men, hey, I'm telling you, man, we have a fundamental role. When you think about biblically, the older men, man, you couldn't be of service to the temple, you know, of the Most High if you weren't over 30 years old, because they wanted to make sure you had some experience under your belt, so you're not in there trying to lead and give wisdom, and you doing the same foolish stuff today. You got to understand, man, you know, Shannon Sharp would have made a good deacon in the Baptist or the black church, because a lot of them elders, man, those are foolish men with grays. And guess what? They're competing with the youngsters. They trying to get the younger. They doing the same foolishness. And this cycle goes on. This cycle goes on until somebody pours in. And that's what the Set Apart Man YouTube channel is all about, man. Pouring in, you know, having these conversations where men can have a place to come together and talk about some of the issues, discuss some of these topics to where you may not want to discuss them in venues, in arenas, or environments where there's women. But for you to get just an abundance of wisdom, of life experiences, oftentimes, man, I'm dropping a lot of transparency. You know, some of these topics that I've talked about, man, I've dealt with a lot of them. And when I tell you, man, I've been a foolish young man, that has lived in multiple countries, fornicated, ripped and ran the streets. When I'm telling you I was out there, I was out there. And now, man, you know, man, my goal is to, man, I don't want younger men to fall into the same snares, the same traps, the same hardships, the same hurdles. So, you know, ever since, man, about 30 years old, bro, I just been dropping game because everything came full circle. But for some men, you know, in their 20s, man, they're caught up in the life. 30s caught up in the life. 40s caught up in the life. 50s caught up in the life. And the wisdom never comes full circle. You know, that time frame to where you're out here doing silly stuff as a man, that shouldn't be that long. You know, we've got 30-year-old men, you know, out here wearing Pooh Shiesty mask, you know, trying to be like the YNs. You and the young dudes got on the same clothes. It was like, what is going on? What is going on? The OGs is supposed to be able to, you think about it, man, an OG is supposed to be on the grill. Come here, youngster, let me talk to you real quick. But we ain't getting that. Not no more. And it's going to have to come from somewhere. So when you think about it, man, you look at some of the silly stuff that we do as men, and we do some silly stuff. And we think we the first to do it. We the first to trick off, first to do this, first to do that. Man, you know, the OGs with the old gray hairs, man, they can look back and tell you, man, I done been there, done that. Man, I've been where you at, but you ain't been where I am. I done been where you at as a youngster, but you haven't been where I am as an old man with wisdom. Think about that. Listen to that statement. Oftentimes, man, if you are an older man and got some wisdom about yourself, no youngster wants to see you doing the same thing and try to drop game and wisdom on. Why? Because you're their competition. You put yourself in a position to be the competition instead of being somebody that can impart wisdom, pour into their cup, fill up their cup with knowledge, wisdom, you know, divine wisdom. How can an old man that ain't walking in truth tell another young man how to walk in truth? It ain't possible. You don't have it to give. So I wanted to just play that clip and listen, because we've got some men out here. Listen to me. We've got some men out here that are telling young men, older men, hey, let me show you how to get your stuff together. This is how you move. This is how you can do this earlier on. This is how you can buckle down and be serious. And then again, we've got old men, a lot of old men from the generation before mine. They ain't dropping no game. They ain't dropping no game, no wisdom. And guess what? You know, when you think about it, you should see an old man. And if he survived some things and got them grades, bro, that's experience. You can learn something, good or bad. You can learn something from them. But we just don't have that much today. Old men out here doing the same silly stuff young dudes is doing. Once again, this is the Set Apart Man, kicking that thing gun barrel straight. Until next time, stay set apart, stay disciplined, and stay in the word of Yah.